Hello, welcome back to Please Read Your Book. My name's Carl. I talk about books. And today I'm going to talk about a book called The Informers by Bret Easton Ellis. This is a novel that really gets into 1980s Los Angeles and the whole sort of underbelly that's going there, and very much is exposing kind of the hollowness, moral decay, and this sort of exterior shell of shiny, glitzy fame, but inside everything is just horrible and rotten. So we're talking about Bret Easton Ellis here. So it's an interesting novel because it's really just kind of interconnected stories, but done very, very, very well. I think, not to get off on a tangent already, but one thing Ellis really exceeds at is structuring novels. He's really, really good at it. This book is very much a critique of society, particularly around show business and around wealth, societies that are built around show business, societies that are built around wealth in Los Angeles. We get a lot of materialism, people consumed by materialism, people consumed by excess, drug use, consumerism, and just people are dislocated and just disconnected with reality, really. It's a pretty grim portrayal of the human condition in an age of superficiality, and it's a very eerie book to read now, because although the book is set in the 1980s, written in the early 90s, was published in 94, it reads like today. It's really like, wow, it's weird. It's really kind of like, that. It makes it like very eerie, almost like a horror novel. So a little bit about Ellis. He doesn't really need much introduction, but should probably give some background here. So yeah, he's born in 1964. He's a Los Angeles, California native. This is territory that he knows very well. He really became famous with his first book, Less Than Zero, which was published in 1985. Very famous book about, again, moral decay, delusionment, that centered around a group of young people. Also became a very well-received, very famous movie. The Informers, published in 1994. It's another very notable work for Ellis, although probably his most notable work is going to be either Less Than Zero or American Psycho. And American Psycho doesn't really need any more attention given to it. It's been, rightfully so, it's been given tons of attention. Ellis is a very, very, very prominent, very important contemporary American author. So back to The Informers. Probably one of the most striking features of the novel is really its unflinching exploration of a self-destructive drive within almost all of the characters. I don't think there's a single character in here that is not bent on destroying themselves. It's like that. It's quite bleak when you look at it that way. There's all these reckless actions, and a lot of it is just to escape this kind of empty life. And ironically, all they end up really doing is just hollowing themselves out even more, or damaging their relationships even more, but through all this behavior. A lot of it is drug abuse, sexual promiscuity, a lot of very risky behavior, some very violent behavior, some very disturbing things in the book too. And it's really just a horrible group of people just hell-bent on self-satisfaction, even if it means destroying themselves. So, like I said before, the narrative is structured in a very interesting way, where it's this series of like interconnected and overlapping stories, and sometimes there's a character or two that will move through a few of the stories and then stop at some point, but the narrative keeps going forward with some other characters that do more things, and then these other people kind of loop around and reappear. And it's very interesting, and in a sense it's very realistic in the way that people can live in different kinds of circles, but there'll be something that makes them overlap, and they start to sort of, you think they might form one large circle, but they don't. They form these sort of interlocking circles with each other. And it's a very interesting thing that he does, and it's a very interesting technique. And I feel like he does it to sort of highlight how one person's choices have a ripple effect on others, and that ripple can go beyond their immediate circle into another circle and ripple through that. So it's quite an interesting technique that he does. He does this in some other novels too, but it's very, very prominent in The Informers. And part of this technique of putting characters in different circles too, I think it helps underscore this kind of emerging sense of isolation that the characters experience. And in a way too, it isolates the narrator. So it kind of like comes off the page. You kind of become isolated as well, if that makes any sense. Also too, we've got these characters that are just unable to forge any kind of meaningful connection with one another. So like I said, you've got these circles of characters that interlock and overlap and sometimes kind of spin together. And you'd think that there would be some kind of event that brings them together and puts them all on the same page and gets them going in the right direction. But there's not. And these people just can't connect with each other. They just can't do anything good or wholesome or right. Another really major theme in the Informers is that we can kind of look at the book as a sort of commentary on the influence of media and celebrity culture, and the way that it shapes or warps or strips away societal values. So similar in other work that Ellis has, the characters are obsessed with an outward image. They're obsessed with fame, the allure, and particularly in this book, there's the allure of Hollywood, and it reflects a broader cultural, particularly in America, but a broader cultural obsession with the surface value, instant gratification. Everything is very superficial, and there's just no depth to anything at all. And it's interesting that, like I said, this is set in the 80s. And the celebrity culture then would have been film stars and pop stars and TV stars. We could easily just replace that now with things like Instagram, YouTube, social media. I guess we still have pop stars, but I mean, really, pop stars today, could they be any more superficial than we've ever had in the history of mankind? So, like, that's why I said before, we're like, this book is almost eerie in that it could be now. Like, I've heard other people say this about Less Than Zero. Same thing, I think, applies to The Informers, in that it could be happening now. All you'd have to do is just change some of the names of celebrities, movies, songs, things like that, and this book would work. It's really weird and it's really eerie. So having said all that, it is a very, very bleak book. It's hard to find good in this book. And I think that's important. I think it makes you really confront certain things and question, what are we really doing as a society? Where are we really going? Where are we now? And where are we going? Do we have any idea what we're doing? I think Ellis is trying to tell us that we don't. I'd like to think that we do, but sometimes you really have to wonder. And I think that this book will help you. This book could help you question some of that. So, just kind of sum it all up. The Informers, it's a very searing critique of Los Angeles, of celebrity culture, of culture that is stripped of any sort of collective good or value. And the stripping agent that does that, that sort of peels all that stuff off, is money, fame, power, and ultimately really just selfishness and the drive just to satisfy and please the self at the expense of all other things, even sometimes at the expense of your own personal well-being, the well-being of others around you. So it's a book that's really examines self-destructive behavior and makes you think. It doesn't tell you. You have to fill in the blank of what is the result of all of this self-destructive behavior. But it's interesting in that it's not just an individual. There's no protagonist or antagonist in a sense. There's no one person that is the most self-destructive in the book. Everyone in the book is collectively self-destructive. And I think it's more of a commentary on society than on an individual or even a group of individuals. Even though the book is just about a group of people, that group of people is really just a sort of microscopic version of all of us. So, a very difficult book, but a very important book, and one that I think is definitely worth checking out. So, once again, this has been Please Read Your Book. My name's Carl. I hope to see you again soon.